Okay, in this video we're going to build a quick low poly character, rig it, texture it, go through the whole process, hopefully in as short a time as possible. So I've created some reference files, so we're going to copy those into the appropriate place. First of all, we're going to create a Maya project directory. So we're going to go to File, Project Window, and we're going to make the Miyazaki character Totoro from the film My Neighbor Totoro. So we're going to create a folder called Totoro. I'm going to put it on my Google Drive, so you might want to put it on your N drive or your pen drive, whichever's appropriate. So check that's all in the right place. You can browse to where you want your project folder to be here. So if I go back a directory, look, G, my drive, select that, and then just go accept. And this creates a Maya project directory with all the subfolders. I'm then going to go just to my Windows Explorer. I've created that reference image that you'll have available on Moodle. So if I go and find that, if I can remember where I placed it in here, there it is. I'm going to just copy that, go back to my drive, and look, there's this Totoro Maya project directory I've created, and I'm going to copy this into the source images folder. This is where Maya will always look for images if the project is set correctly. Okay, so I'm going to close that down. And now what I want to do is I want to load up those reference images so I can use them as reference when I'm working. Don't want it in the perspective view because it will just sit straight across the camera. We want it in the front and the side view. So if we go to these views, I'll click on View, Image Plane, and Import Image. And then there it is, double click on that. And we'll load it into this view as well. So I go View, Image Plane, and Import Image. And same one again. Okay, so we've got the two image planes in here. We're maximizing the perspective view, just tap the space bar. That's how I'm going in and out of the views. Just tapping the space bar will take you in and out of whichever view you've got your cursor over. You can also use these set of defaults here if you want to as well. Okay, so in this view here, we just want to move these image planes to the back. So I think this is the one for the front view, and this is the one for the side view. Let's just pick them both and then move them up so the feet are on the floor. Let's just have a look in here. So let's just move these up. About like that is good. And that's my front view. So I just want to pick that image plane and get the Totoro image right in the middle. So I'm just getting his center line on the center line in Maya's grid view. And then if we go to the side view, we want to do the same with this and get the side view dead center. Like, see, these are just reference images. We don't have to work exactly to them. Normally I'd have like an illustration or something of the model I'm creating. With this tutorial, I've made these images so it's a lot easier for you to see the topology of the models. Now that we've got our image planes set up, we just want to make them a little bit more sort of see-through, so they're not so bold in our view. So if I select them both and have a look over in the channel box layer editor over here, there's something called alpha gain, which is the transparency of these textures. So if we change this to 0.2, they go almost see-through. So they're not so bold. So we'll be able to see our wireframe mesh when we're working. Okay, select them again. I just deselected them, selected them again. We're going to put them on a layer as well, so we don't keep accidentally picking them when we're working. So down here, layers, and we want to click on this icon here, which creates a new layer and adds the selected objects to it, like so. We've then got visibility on off, and we can set these to R, which is reference, so we can see them, but we can't pick them. If you want to, you can double click on layer 1 and we can give it a name. So if we create lots of display layers, we can name them so we know what they are. So this one's image planes, like so. Okay, so we're kind of ready to get going. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a basic poly sphere. So on the poly modeling shelf or in the create polygon primitives menu here, we're going to click on this one here. This creates a basic sphere. Press W to get the move tool up. Mine's already appeared like so. Press the F key to frame the selection. And we want to reduce the subdivisions on this to make it a little bit easier to work with. So over in the channel box over here, click on Polysphere 1. And we're going to change these numbers to 10. Okay, so the subdivision axis and height, we'll just change that down to 10. And you can see it reduces the subdivisions on our sphere. I also want to rotate it slightly. I want in my, this is my front view, I want this line here to be in line with it. So it's like a center line, okay? I mean, I could have swapped these views around, but I just want to show you something anyway to do with freezing transforms. So all I'm going to do in the Y, I know the number for this, how to rotate it perfectly. So look, 18 in the Y axis will rotate this just so that this line here, this subdivision here, is directly in line with the front of our Totoro model there. You can see it's nicely in line. Okay, now by doing that, this is something I wanted to highlight. If you ever rotate things and so on, if I look at my rotate tool now, can you see it's sort of off center? And if I look at my scale tool again, it's not to the world axis like this. Okay, and so if we started scaling this, it would sort of scale crossways like that rather than nicely in the x-axis. To fix this, on the poly modeling shelf, there's a little snowflake icon, and that freezes the transformations. It will reset all of this back to 0. So we can just do that like so, and look, you can see it resets the manipulator tool as well. Okay, so the freeze transform tool is really useful. These 3 blue icons are very useful. I'll try and highlight those when we're working on this. Okay, now we can start to move things about. So we'll go to our front view to start off with, zoom in on everything. Okay, and I want to move these subdivisions about. So look, I'm just going to go vertex mode. So right clicking and zoom in a bit more. And I'm going to drag these ones down to here, like that. And these ones down to here, and you'll get the idea in a minute. And what I'll do, I'll speed this up so we can move a bit swiftly. So look, I'm just moving these in line because I've got the subdivisions exactly right. Now normally my image planes will just be a sketch or an illustration of what I'm building from a few different angles. They won't be as detailed as these image planes where I've actually given you a kind of wireframe topology. So there'll be a lot more working kind of in the perspective view and just figuring things out for yourselves. We get these into the right kind of place, and then we can start scaling them out. Now Maya's got a symmetry tool, but I think with a low poly object like this, we'll maybe look at the symmetry later. All we've got to do is this. Look, we're just going to pick these, press R, and then just start scaling them out to fit the wireframe of the image planes. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to speed this up and continue doing this, and then we'll look at extruding bits and pieces out of this model. Okay, we've got the basic shape now, so we're ready to start extruding things out to make the arms, the legs, the ears, and the tail. Okay, so got to figure out which faces we want to extrude the arms out. I think I've done it with this face here and this face here. Now at this point we could start using symmetry, but I'm still not going to at the moment. I might use it in a minute. So I've got those two faces selected. Make sure you've got nothing else, because as soon as you use an extrude, it will extrude any selected faces. We go to our modeling toolkit over here and we click on extrude. Get this little kind of extrude manipulator tool that's always 90 degrees to the face so that we can pull these out. I'm then going to press the W key and just move these down like so. Okay, and if we have a look at our reference sheet here, we can actually see that we've only actually got, we haven't got this bit here. Okay, so we can weld these bits together if we want to follow this absolutely exactly. And it gives me a chance to show you another tool. So I'm going to go into vertex mode. Now, before you use target weld, always click off to make sure you've got no vertices selected, because it will weld all the verts that are selected together. We then can go target weld, and we can click there and drag them onto each of those verts there, like that. Okay, so we've got the same kind of shape here in our illustration, in our model, sorry. Press the Q key to cancel that tool. We'll go to our front view now, and we'll just get these the same. Let's turn on symmetry. We'll show you how symmetry works. Lives up here, or it also lives over here. Okay, so you want to determine what is the sort of kind of axis you want to create symmetry across. So on this model, it's across the x-axis. So let's go to Object X. Symmetry doesn't always work, and it sometimes creates weird effects, but you can see I select that point there, and that's working absolutely fine. So we can get that nicely done like this. And let's just have a look at it in the side view as well. Let's try and get this shape similar here. Can we see this kind of box section here? So I'm going to move this point to there and this point to there. Getting that kind of shape we want. You can see a little bit of differences in our view there. Let me just pull those points back in a bit. So that's better. That's sort of closer to our reference. Okay, we can now pick that face. Symmetry should now be picking the other face opposite. And let's just check the extrude works with symmetry. Sometimes it has weird effects, but we'll give it a go. I think it's working absolutely fine. So we've pulled out that one, so we've got that one, and we need one more extrude. Be careful with the extrude tool. It's very easy to end up with like hidden faces in objects, so you just got to use it slowly and methodically. Go back to our front view, go back to vertex mode, and when I'm selecting vertex, you notice I'm dragging a box around them. Okay, so I'm selecting the ones behind as well. If you just click on one, look, it's only selecting a single vertex, so be careful of that. Always drag a box around them if you're selecting through. Okay, and I'll move those to here, like so. Okay, we'll check the how the model's looking in the perspective view now. So not too bad. We'll make the wrist a little bit slimmer. So look, we can go into edge mode, double click on an edge, and it selects the whole edge loop around it. Press the R key, you can scale that in to make a kind of a simple kind of hand shape, or Totoro. You can just spend ages changing this, you know, and sculpting this. I mean, it's very low poly, obviously, but you can make little minor changes to it and keep affecting it as you go along. I know with symmetry on it means that I'm affecting the vertex on the other side, which is cool. So I'm keeping the object fairly symmetrical. Let's do the legs now. I think I extruded out this face here. Okay, so we can check on the reference there. There's a 3/4 angle one, so we can kind of check that as well. So I've got both of those selected, nothing else selected. I'm going to do extrude. I don't want to pull the legs out like this. Okay, I don't want them in the middle of a star jump. I've still got the extrude to there. Look, don't do another extrude. I'm just undoing that to take it back so I haven't pulled them out. I'm going to press the W key and then just pull them down. Now what I'd like to do is snap this face in a straight line. If I hold the X key down and just drag in the up axis, you can see it's snapping to the grid, but it's not snapping that face in a straight line. Now there's a default setting in Maya that we need to change. So if we double click on the move icon over here and go down to move snap settings and turn off retain component spacing, it will allow us now, if I hold the X key down and drag the vertical axis, so you can see it snap those in a nice straight line. Okay, we're then just going to change this so you can see at the moment it's got a bit of a taper on it. So I'm just going to pick this edge up here, and let's pick this edge here. So I'm holding Control Shift down. Just get that so it's almost like kind of a box section for now. So it's just a little bit neater. Okay, just click off, go back into face mode. That face there, let's just pull that up a little bit, roughly where his knee is. Let's check the front view. Like so, you can see it's scaled out a little bit as well. His legs are sort of widening, so let's just do that as well. And then what we can do now is do another extrude. Okay, so I'm going to try holding Shift down as I do this extrude. Okay, so I'm not actually clicking this, I'm just holding Shift down to do a Shift extrude. I'm going to do another extrude. Okay, and then I'm going to pick that face, and I'm going to hold Shift down and drag to make his toes. Okay, and then we're looking at the views and we're tidy this up. So in vertex mode, we move this up to here, we scale it out a little bit, these ones up a little bit, and then we'll see what's going on in the other views just to make sure we kind of get it the same. So in this side view, see his legs just need a little bit of changing about and so on. There. You can just, and then you can just check all this in the perspective view because we're working very two-dimensionally at the moment. So it's very easy to screw things up quite quickly. You're sort of moving points around, then you go and have a look at it in the perspective view. It's all gone a bit wrong, but that's fine. That's fine for what we're doing at the moment. I might just taper these in a tiny little bit more and just keep this angle so it's fairly smooth, as smooth as I can get it, so there's not too much of a harsh angle on it. I might change this a little bit from the reference. I might just move his knees up a bit so they're kind of equidistant between the two 2 sets of verts. So something like that. That's fine. What else does he need? He needs some ears. So I think with the ears, I did something here. Let's have a look at the reference. Yeah, I use the multi-cut tool. So it's a chance for me to show you another tool. So let's just zoom in this area here. I'm going to use the multi-cut tool here from my modeling toolkit. I'm just going to left click here, here, and then join it up at the end like this. And press enter. That's drawn this little sort of diamond shape. Then go into face mode, carefully holding Control Shift down, which adds to selection. Do that. Make sure nothing else is selected. Have a quick look around your model, because otherwise, if we do an extrude with those things selected, it will screw things up. Okay. So I'm going to now press the W key, like so. I'm going to hold Shift down, and I'm going to extrude those up. Now, sometimes, like I said, sometimes the extrude does weird things, okay, with symmetry on. So just be careful. If suddenly you try to shift drag these up and the whole model sort of scales, just try clicking on the actual extrude tool or turn off the symmetry and do just one at a time. Okay, I'm going to hold Shift again, pull these up like so. We've got the ears like this, and then just from the front view, I'm going to make these as close to the reference image as I can. Back into vertex mode. Something like that, just scale, rotate them a little bit. That'll do. And these ones, again, just scale them down a bit so they taper, rotate. That's okay in that view. Let's just, doesn't have to be exactly like the reference. That's fine. And then from the side view, again, they just need to be a little bit more shape to them. Maybe something like that. And again, that will probably do. We can always adjust things a little bit later on. Okay, so we've got the basic shape there. We need his tail. I think I just, yeah, I can see what I've done. These 4 faces here. So let's go into face mode. Let's actually turn symmetry off. Okay, sometimes if you're trying to do things across the center line, again, that can cause problems. I've selected those 4 faces. Again, double checking nothing else is selected. A good clue to that, if you press like the manipulator tool, it should sit in the middle of that selection. So suddenly, if that manipulator tool is way over here, you know you've got a vert around the front of the character selected. We're doing extrude. Okay, I'm going to press the R key. So I'm not using, it always does the last selected faces where the manipulator is. And then I'm just going to scale these down like this. Okay, move it out a little bit. And scale it down a bit more. Like this. Okay, and then I can just adjust the shape. So I am going to go back into symmetry mode. And in vertex mode, I'm just going to move this around to get more of a kind of hexagonal, octagonal, kind of whatever that is, kind of look to it. A bit more smoothed off. I'm just looking at this in all views to make sure I keep the kind of smoothed shape of the object. So look, we've got our shape now that we can extrude out. So pick those 4 faces. I've got symmetry on. I'm hoping symmetry won't do anything weird. Let's just try shift drag. That's good. And we only need a couple of subdivisions. So 2 shift drags out. And then let's have a look at him in the side view. Let's try and get this similar to what we've got here. Look, I can double click on this edge to select that entire edge. You can do this in vertex mode or edge mode. It really doesn't matter. All the components are kind of interrelated. I'll do this in vertex mode now just so I get only those and not the sort of horizontal edges involved in the manipulation that I'm doing. That's all good from that angle. You can spend ages getting this exactly right, but you know, my reference is very quick. It didn't take me, I think the original model took me just over an hour to model texture and rig. So it's a very quick model. I'm taking a little bit longer with it because I'm doing it much more slowly. So hopefully you'll see how I'm creating this. So that's good. Let's have a look at it. We've got to get a little bit of shape in this view. So in edge mode, double click on that edge, scale it out like that. And that will do for now. Okay, the last thing we want to do with Totoro is look, this nose. He's got this little extra multi-cut across here so we can pull out his nose. And this is just done. Look, I'm going to turn symmetry off for this, multi-cut, click here. I'm going to hold the shift key down, which finds the center of the edge. Or not in that case. I press delete to go back along the multi-cut. It finds increments and then release it to find this vertex here, and then press enter, and then we need another one, look, just below it like that. So not pressing anything, just left click, then the shift key just to find the middle point, and then release it just to snap that to that vert. So we've now got, look, this vertex here allows us to, look, we can just pull this out like that to make Totoro's nose. We can look at that for reference again in this view just to get it in the right place, like so. And that is the basics of our Totoro model done. Let's just double check. Just press Q to go back into selection mode. A couple of things we'll do before we save it. I mean, what you should be doing is saving every 5-10 minutes, to be honest. But I'll go back into object mode, like so. And we can see at the moment he's what we call faceted, so we can see these hard edges across him. We can smooth that without adding any polys to him. So from mesh display, we can go soften edges. Okay, so this might give it a slightly more smooth look. It's not added any polys, it's just adjusted how the lighting reacts across the edges. You can see you get these harsh shadows on very tight angles, which is kind of the downside of it, but it looks a lot sort of smoother. The other thing we want to do is just delete history and freeze any transformations on our object. So go to the channel box layer editor. Look, this is all the history on the object. So right from when we started with the polysphere, we want to get rid of all that. It just tidies up the model. So these three blue icons I mentioned, this is freeze transforms. We don't need to freeze. Look, this is all set to 0 and 1, but we want to delete the construction history by clicking on the blue clock, and that cleans it all up. This one just centers the pivot. Okay, I think the pivot's pretty central, but you can click on it. Look, you can see it just moved a little bit. So there's our Totoro model. So we're then going to save this, go File, Save Scene As. We've got the project all set up nicely, so we call that, look, Totoro 01. So you've got version numbers. You should have probably about 4 or 5 versions by now, and we'll save that. So we've got the first version done, and then we can look at texturing it.